Press the bell icon on the YouTube app to never miss a video from News Laundry.
Welcome to News Laundry Chhota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. News Laundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a News Laundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of News Laundry Hafta. Before I give you the headlines and introduce the panel, just have a small announcement. It seems many of you are discovering the podcast through podcast platforms like SoundCloud or Spotify. We are on Spotify now, by the way. And so it seems many of you may not be aware that there is a website called newslaundry.com, which does more than just podcasts, and we have reports, we have videos, we have text reports. So do check out newslaundry.com, and when you are there, subscribe because we don't take advertising, because when the advertiser pays, the advertiser is served. We run on subscriptions, so we hope you will subscribe. And in case you do consider subscribing, also consider contributing to the News Laundry Sena, the NL Sena button, or you can go on to www.newslaundry.com/Sena and contribute to our fund that will help cover elections, because we want to have on-ground reports from reporters across the country. On that note, I shall introduce the panel. We have a guest with us, Praveen Donthi. Did I pronounce that right, Praveen?
Yeah.
So, Praveen, you probably have read his story, which caused a lot of responses and appreciation and criticism on Twitter, which is basically where news is battled out. He's a staff writer at Caravan. He's been with them for 7 years. He's done several cover stories, including Ajit Doval's profile back in September. You may have recalled that. I think we discussed that on the Hafta as well. Before Caravan, he's worked at the Hindustan Times, Tehelka and Deccan Herald. He's been a journalist for over 13 years, and the March cover story, which is titled The Image Makers, How ANI Reports the Government's Version of Truth, is Praveen's story, which is the one that made a lot of headlines, at least on Twitter, over the last couple of weeks. Welcome, Praveen.
Thank you.
Well, then there's Madhu Trehan, our editor-in-chief. Hi, Madhu.
Hello.
Raman Kirpal.
Hi.
Manisha Pande.
Hi.
And I, as you know, am Abhinandan. So, Manisha, what...
Abhinandan Sekhri, please. You must now say your... For the next few months. Welcome home,
Your name has been
Abhinandan.
stolen by the Times of India also. Abhi, the nickname as well as...
You know, I was told that...
Abhi people, we're calling him Abhi also.
But I was told I was at this breakfast and one of the guys who works with Times of India print told me that he was watching Times Now, and one of the panelists accidentally said, referring to Abhinandan, the pilot as Abhinandan Sekhri. And this is why I mean Abhinandan Varthaman. I was like, Waji. Anyway, so what do we have today?
So grim news coming in from Jammu. There was a grenade explosion at a bus stand. 19 people were injured, and 2 are in critical condition. A very disturbing video started doing the rounds on Twitter today of saffron-clad men assaulting a Kashmiri dry fruit seller in Lucknow. All 4 have been arrested. Yesterday in the court, the Attorney General told the Supreme Court that the Hindu story on Rafale deal was based on stolen documents.
And we'll discuss the Hindu story as well, which was a major
and
story.
that it cannot be admitted in court because it was stolen. And NRAM responded to this saying that he's going to stand by his sources. Wing Commander Abhinandan was handed over to the Indian authorities over the weekend. It was a Saturday, I think. That got wall-to-wall coverage. Everyone was stationed at Wagah from 11 to 9 p.m. Pakistan detained 2 relatives of Masood Azhar. It has also added Hafiz Saeed's Jamaat-ud-Dawa and Falah-e-Insaniyat Foundation to the list of banned groups. Interestingly, its army said that the Jaish does not exist in the country, but its foreign minister only a week ago had said that we're in touch with them and they're there and he's not really well. The PM...
He didn't say we are in touch with them. He says people. People are.
People are. Those people. Yeah.
But I guess he meant Pakistani people, right?
Yeah.
God knows.
The people there, he said. God knows.
People there.
So,
who's there? Who's people? People.
The Prime Minister gave a speech yesterday where he attacked everyone who's asking for proof of the strikes, and he called them the poster boys of Pakistan. Pakistan Minister Fayazul Hassan Chauhan was resigned over anti-Hindu remarks. This I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, he
called Hindu
That's
scout.
a big development.
Yeah.
It's never happened.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He basically
Said
said that
urine
Hindus
drinking,
are
idol worshippers.
cow drinking, cow urine drinking people and idol worshippers,
I
and
see.
we are stronger than you and all that. And he had to resign. There was a big furore over it. Amit Shah said that 250 terrorists have been killed. This even as the Air Force has maintained that it doesn't know. And the Air Force chief said that we are not going to count casualty figures. That's up to the government. And Modi also said that if the IAF had Rafale, none of our fighter jets would have been shot down.
So there was a lot of Pakistan news clearly. Also, the 3 Jamaat-e-Islami leaders who were arrested, the assets were sealed in Jammu. Also, apparently, Yasin Malik, his case has been reopened, 30-year-old case regarding the abduction of Rubaiya Saeed. Then why claims of the PF pilots lynching don't add up. In fact, that was a very interesting story that News Laundry did. One story had gone all over the place that the Pakistani Air Force pilot who had reportedly ejected was lynched by Pakistani people, and it appears that story was based on a Facebook post.
Yeah.
That was a shocking reportage, and some large organizations went to that narrative.
And I have some good news that I was quite surprised that of late people are stopping me and saying News Laundry is doing really good work.
Oh, thank you people if you're listening. Then Rahul Kanwal's exchange with Piyush Goyal at the India Day conclave I thought was noteworthy, where he told Piyush Goyal, we don't need lessons in patriotism from you.
And he kept cool despite quite provocative statements from Piyush.
I mean, I will never accuse Piyush Goyal of being classy or sounding intelligent, but even by his own standards, he sounded so foolish when he was on that tirade. And, and he carried on for a couple of minutes. He could have just said it for 40 seconds and then moved on.
But this is a line that has been obviously come as a diktat. That if somebody asks you for numbers on how many people died in Pakistan, you will simply answer, are you questioning the army?
Then,
so this response has been repeated by all the ministers.
Speaking of Pakistani, this thing, Manisha, the headline you said that no one is asking for proof of Indians striking Pakistan. People are asking for proof of the number of dead given. And I think that wording is very important because these guys have turned the wording into they're asking proof of strikes. Of course we know they struck because they went across. Everyone has said they struck. The evidence being asked for is the claim that the BJP made in the first place, 300 terrorists. Okay? That is the evidence,
and the
not of the
extent
strikes.
of damage.
No,
Like what exactly did you...
The number also because the politicians have
Exactly.
given a number.
They were the ones.
Actually, they could simply say that we don't have the numbers, and that would put everything at we are not on the ground.
Exactly.
We don't have the numbers.
Which
they
is what
sanitize the place. They're not allowing anybody in. And they're showing a showpiece place where some forest, there were some bombs dropped. And they're showing that to everybody, but they're not showing the actual footage. I mean, that would give them some credibility. They're not showing the actual place where it was bombed.
And even if they don't, that they need not have gone with that narrative, but...
And Shiv Shankar Menon said the right thing on some TV program. He said, look, the numbers actually don't matter.
Exactly.
The fact is the message has gotten across that we will come in and come after you.
Invade you, which is what we discussed last Hafta as well.
And we'll come deep into Pakistan.
Yeah. Then the OIC, Organization of Islamic Countries, right? So while she went there, and in the past we haven't really given this organization much cognizance, she went there, made an exception. She was invited. Pakistan boycotted because she was invited. Yeah. And after that, they issued a statement condemning the Indian terrorism in Kashmir. So I'm not sure what that achieved. It was considered a major coup that she's been the guest of honor, but uske baad unhe hamari bhi had kar di. So
Pakistan ko appease karna hai na.
So then almost all parties want Jammu and Kashmir polls with Lok Sabha elections, says the Election Commission. So it appears Rajdeep has tweeted, watch this space. In fact, Rajdeep tweeted today that the Haryana Assembly and the Maharashtra Assembly are going to be dissolved and elections will be announced soon, and they will want those to be held with the Lok Sabha. I don't know whether that will happen, but that's his big expose on Twitter, or his big revelation on Twitter. Then Trump moves to end special trade treatment for India. He's making his usual noises of basically just making only enemies and no friends. Then Prime Minister tried to portray all dyslexic people in poor light, says Disability Rights Group. Those of you who saw that speech of his, it keeps getting more and more petty.
That was just...
it
was so petty, especially because he's interacting with children.
And it was obviously scripted, as I think someone pointed out, that all his interactions are scripted. He doesn't, even with his own party, he doesn't take him from
that's even worse. If it was scripted, then
exactly.
his
That means he had thought of this joke, that I'll make a joke on Rahul Gandhi with this punchline. I mean, he'd already thought it through because he knew what the discussions are going to be. I mean, it's so... Air India crew asked to say Jai Hind after every in-flight announcement. Jai Hind. Trevor Noah apologizes, but defense comments on India-Pakistan tensions. Jai Hind. We've discussed an awful and awesome, but I'd like to know what the panel thinks. And the Delhi court has summoned Jairam Ramesh, the Caravan magazine, in the Vivek Doval defamation case. Jai Hind. Praveen, tell us about both your reports that have caused much furor on Twitter this week. One is on ANI, and the other one was on ORF. That was Caravan, but that wasn't yours, but it was in the same issue of Caravan. So I just like to discuss that because next week we'll get too late. But first with yours, just can you tell our listeners what is ANI? It's a private limited company that is a news agency.
Yeah.
And people subscribe to. That's a revenue model.
That's right. Yeah. And it existed, for a long time. But I think for the first time, people noted it when Narendra Modi chose, ANI to give his first interview, of this year. In the election year, all important. Why not Arnab? Why not Sudhir Chaudhary? Why not Rajat Sharma? Why ANI? Because ANI has that reach.
Everyone
ANI
can take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, it has a monopoly in video news production. And it's become the bedrock of Indian broadcasting system, now, because we know all the TV channels are cutting down their bureaus, cutting down costs, and it's very cheap to produce talking head shows, but the rest of the day, what they do is they depend on ANI feed. And this feed, I'm trying to argue in the piece that it's extremely manipulated. It's been like that for ages, ever since it's been founded.
Which is how long?
1971 incorporated, but I think it became really active in the 80s, and in the 90s it really took off. It was all under the Congress, but the BJP, they have a certain affinity with, during NDA 1, and now it's visible. At one point, it was called Advani News International because, his daughter used to work for ANI, and Advani, used to obviously give them access. He was the most powerful BJP leader at the time.
Right.
And, BJP was Vajpayee was also very close to ANI and all that. Now, we are in this post-truth, fake news kind of, political system, right? So a lot of news that emanates from ANI is, state propaganda. That's what I try to show, how they do it, how they are close to the establishment.
So I'll just, to cut in, I'll just explain to the listeners. Basically, ANI is like a wire service that you subscribe to. So news organizations don't have reporters all over the country. So they subscribe to a service where they get, let's say, 10 minutes or 15 minutes of footage where you'll get, 40 seconds of one, 2 minutes of one, and, some interviews. And on the basis of that, you can file ground reports. Your reporter hasn't gone there, but ANI has a credibility that most news organizations will take an ANI feed and say, okay, isse hum up report kaat denge, which is why you see a lot of similar reports on different news organizations. Those all stem from ANI. That is the function that ANI serves, which is why they have the largest footprint.
Yeah. If you see today's Express front page, there is a piece, a small story on two BJP leaders fighting in UP, right? It went viral.
Right.
So it was, it was ANI footage. You will see ANI, watermark also on the
there was only
the
one
screenshot.
inside, okay.
Yeah. So, is it really important? How did it make to the front page? In the sense, it's everywhere. We cannot escape. We are living in a very visual sort of age, right? So, and this being the only organization, it has a monopoly, and it's had monopoly for a long time. And the story is that, the government allowed it to be a monopoly, discouraging other people. I've met a lot of people who wanted to try, senior journalists, with some capital, but none of them were encouraged. All the doors were shut, especially after 2014. I think News Laundry did a story about how Hindustan Samachar is also being encouraged.
Yeah.
It has direct links with the RSS.
Yes.
So the other news agency that's benefiting is ANI.
Okay.
And Modi, after coming to power, gave ANI the most number of interviews. Like 2014, before, elections, 15, then 17.
Then
and
recent one is Smita Prakash that we discussed.
The recent one, of course, was much discussed, So it has a reach in the sense they have a partnership. Reuters, the international news agency, has 49% stake in ANI. Nobody really knows that. So
and who has the rest?
The rest is held by ANI founders, Prem Prakash, his son Sanjeev Prakash. Smita Prakash is married to Sanjeev Prakash, but she doesn't have any shares. But the founder Prem Prakash's wife and his daughter,
own the majority.
They have the
rest of it.
It's a family-owned group. Now it's into third generation. Ishan Prakash, the son, the grandson of Prem Prakash, has taken over. I mean, he runs the live services, etc. So most of the TV news is now depending on ANI feed, and that comes in a manipulated, sort of form. So then in this age of information explosion, you have like a very strictly controlled narrative, coming into our TV, so and then, now.
Let's move to Hindu. Madhu, what is your take on this threat of Official Secrets Act? In fact, I'll just quote, this is what the gentleman said.
The Official Secrets Act was written in 1923. The date itself should explain it. It was meant for native Indians, controlling native Indians against a colonial rule. And our venerable forefathers kept it in our constitution. And the fact is that it's being used many times against journalists. I think recorded loss 14 or 15 times in the last 5 years. And it's basically to silent people on the basis of
threat of imprisonment.
On this. And in this, actually, if you look at what the court said yesterday, the bench said to Venugopal yesterday, it was very clear that are you going to, I think it was Justice Joseph who said, are you, or the Chief Justice, one of them said that, are you going to use the Official Secrets Act to cover up, what if it covers up corruption?
Correct.
And he's very clear on that. And Venugopal says that these documents should not be looked at because they're stolen. And
they compromise national security.
Yeah. So he said that means that if somebody uses documents which may be stolen, but to prove his innocence, are you saying that the court should not look at them? We will look at them. So the court was very clear that they were not buying the Attorney General's argument on any of these issues. And then he brings in this emotional blackmail that the country needs F-16s. Yeah, of course we need F-16s, but that does not justify two parallel negotiation teams negotiating with France. The letter which Hindu, one of the things that Hindu exposed was this, that this was a letter from the ministry to the PMO that you are carrying on parallel negotiations, and that undermines us.
That's correct.
So who are they listening to?
And that was the old one, and the new one.
Exactly.
In fact, just to give our audience a context, the NRAM's latest report, basically what it says is that it is the Indian committee that was looking at this deal, saying that waiving the clause that requires a bank guarantee has inflated the cost significantly by some 500 million.
And the escrow account, I mean, that was such a reasonable thing to ask to do.
So, and that is what they're saying. And of course, and Hindu said that they have access to these documents. And that is what they're saying. They will charge them an Official Secrets Act. Raman sir, you were saying that while it's a big expose, the story is not written simply. It's too technical. It doesn't...
It's as if straight written from the documents. But
that is a problem that journalists...
And Ram we have been
because there's no restriction on word limit for them, for both. So that's why Arun Shoury's clause in anything that he writes is you can't touch a word.
But you can't take away the fact that the story was extremely relevant and very important, and it exposes the...
And has it been taken up by television like they take up any other...
Biggest fake news of this year is Rafale, according to all the news anchors.
One issue I would like to bring up in this discussion is that what I'm seeing is that there is the supporters of the government, they are actually going after journalists saying, why are you asking these questions? Why are they agenda-driven questions? Why are you asking questions that pertain to national security? Journalists should not be asking the questions. There's a real wave against journalists asking the questions. And what confounds me really is that what are you fighting for? You're fighting for the right to not know. Because I don't want to know, so don't ask the question. And so what is the issue here? The journalists are not asking questions for personal information to go home and gossip. They are asking the information asking questions to get information for the public to know. So, and why is the public saying, don't ask the questions because we don't want to know? What kind of diabolical position is that?
Speaking of the numbers, there was some new evidence that My Nation has carried, and I believe Shiv Arur also tweeted this out, that the bomb that they are saying that they use does not bring down the actual structure. Basically,
it's a penetrative bomb.
What the skeptics is the right word. The skeptics are saying is that satellite imagery shows that those structures are still standing. In fact, there's an Australian policy magazine that showed the satellite images. Then some images have come now from, I think,
Reuters also put up a piece saying that there's been not much damage.
So My Nation has carried a piece. My Nation is owned by Rajiv Chandrasekhar, who's a BJP MP, and which says that it was a penetrative bomb, the same thing, and then
so it goes
exploded.
in, it explodes, but it does not. It need not
bring down the structure. So I'm not sure why they'd use that, but irrespective, my question is that how can the opposition be accused of setting the narrative of maximum airtime, and the biggest loudmouths belong to the BJP, both officially and even their proxies? I mean, does anyone buy that this narrative has been set by the opposition or those who question Modi? Is it possible? I mean, I don't know. We don't have the accurate number.
Wait, the 300.
The skeptics, that why are they questioning this?
Oh.
Isn't that a natural follow-up from what they set up as a narrative, the BJP?
Absolutely. And look, forget BJP Congress, the international media, the reports that have come out, they are responding, they are testing India's claims of major damage, destruction of a terror camp, over 300 terrorists dead. So now everything that they're evaluating is on the basis of this narrative set by the Indian government. So sure, the bomb may have been penetrative and maybe it was not of such,
it wasn't supposed to do what,
But then if you're saying 300, then that doesn't match that narrative. That this bomb is, not going to destroy the entire structure and all. Because you've said you've destroyed the entire structure. So all the skeptics are responding to what the government has said from the day one. From within like half an hour of the news trickling in, you have said you've destroyed the entire JEM leadership. You've killed 300. You've destroyed a largest terror camp and its control room. So how can you?
And when Amit Shah says that in a public platform, of course it's going to be questioned.
Yeah. So
I
don't think there was ever a question on whether the bombs hit the target or not. We all knew it hit, but what did it do after hitting?
And what exactly did it hit? What was the target? Yeah.
No, I think people are primarily questioning the whole number, the act itself, because they want to send out a message saying that we don't want to be taken for granted. We're not fools. I think that's why more and more people are questioning, this time than when we had surgical strikes, if you guys remember. Surgical strikes seems to be like a settled matter, but I don't know. I still have my, doubts about that. And then I'm thinking, if they had said not 300 but 1,000, the media that's, favorable to them and their constituency, they would have run, with the number. Yeah. And they would have tried, like all these guys are twisting themselves to prove that, whatever, these bombs only, damage.
In fact, Rahul Shiv Shankar said exclusive access ghus ke mara. What did his exclusive access document say?
They would have, they would have, gone to any lengths to prove that there were 1,000, not 300. So, they would have done that because they have to do it. But, and the people are questioning it because I don't think the BJP got its dividends they were hoping for with this,
Well, I think that we'll know after the election.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, that's my reading. Also,
Madhu,
Nirupama Subramaniam, the senior editor with Express, she put out a story saying the people who were, the students, etc., were taken to some other place, by Pakistani army before the attack happened. So if that is true, if we go by that narrative, nobody is discussing that. I don't know why. It was on the front page of Express 2 days ago. Right?
Where she said the trainers, the kids who were being trained there were taken back to the village.
The Pakistan army sort of like cleared them out and took them elsewhere. So if that is true, then obviously there wouldn't be any damage. But under Reuters, I would go with international organizations rather than ANI and Praveen Swami's First Post and other publications.
Yeah, that's a story we should discuss.
Has Praveen Swami responded to the questions about his story?
Yeah, he did.
First Post carried a story by Praveen Swami, who's the editor. A very fantastic cinematic story about the irony of war and all that. So basically what he said was that we shot down one of their F-16s. That pilot fell. And when he fell, the locals there mistook him for an Indian pilot and lynched him to death. And that there's a lot of similarity because his father too, like Abhinandan's father, has served in the Air Force and how the goddess of war is not kind to all. It was a spectacularly written piece which really bothered me. I think we discussed with Madhu also because it just seemed like, wow, crazy. But it turns out, and News Laundry carried a story on that it was all based on one man's Facebook post. Nothing else, nothing more than that Facebook post. The Air Force person that he has cited has only 2 sons. There's no third son, and both sons are not in the Air Force. They are in the UK. They've got nothing to do with the Air Force or the Army. And there's absolutely no proof of a pilot having been lynched.
Other than that Facebook post, which everyone ran with.
And when we counter-questioned the man who wrote that Facebook post, he said that it doesn't matter whether Shahbaz or Abbas died, someone died. That was his. Koi na koi to mara na. Koi to mara, tum pata lagao ab. So
he had just done a Facebook post based on nothing.
He just did a Facebook post. Praveen Swami, being this editor, picked it up and just pasted it, and that story is still sitting on Facebook First Post's website.
No, what happened?
And there's no accountability.
No, so did he respond to our story?
He responded saying that I have an on-camera testimony of my source, which could just be a Skype interview that you took with him. That doesn't prove...
No, on camera with this person who did the face... Who posted the Facebook. So what evidence is... That's not evidence. You just have evidence of somebody cooking up a story.
No, Madhu, there's a big difference in a Facebook post and me reading out the Facebook post on video. That's evidence, my lord. And you guys do subscribe to News Laundry. Pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. If you're listening to this podcast on Stitcher or any iTunes or Spotify, we have a website called newslaundry.com, which does more than podcasts. It has videos, it has articles. Go to NL Sena and also contribute so that we can cover the election in a robust way.
Sun liya Afrika, mufat khoro. Not to brag or anything, but News Laundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free.
All News Laundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.